Today we're going to do a video on replacing the connectors for your battery in your car for these type of connectors, which go onto a top post mounted battery, and instead we're going to install this battery which has side mounts on it. I'm going to show you what we're going to do here just very quickly so you get an idea. You might wonder, why would I put a battery that has side mounted posts using this type of connector as opposed to this battery? Reason you're going to run into this, same reason here. I have this spare battery. It doesn't cost me anything. The battery runs about $100 or $120 here in Canada, big enough to run this car. And this car is my son's car. We paid about probably $250 for it. So I'm not going to go out and buy a brand new battery for a $250 car if I've got this type of unit. Here's the dead battery that came out of it, top mounted posts. Put that aside. What we're going to do here is we're going to change these connectors here with this type, which is for the side mounted battery. Post with the side mounts like that, and they screw in there. I mentioned that we're changing out these connectors because I have a battery that has side mounted posts, and that is definitely part of the reason. The other reason is this: I would be replacing these regardless, because we've had a problem with this vehicle as far as charging, and it's needing boosts. And if you look at these cables here, hopefully you can see this. I'm going to turn this around here without moving my camera. We can actually tell that the wiring, the plastic here, has melted. And our braided cable here is actually, if we move it like that, hopefully you can see some of it is actually cracked in there. So we may have a potential problem here with this wiring anyway. And at one point I actually noticed that the battery was overheating. Definitely don't want that. We're going to do a test to see if our alternator tests okay, because if another reason that I wanted to use this old battery, because if our regulator is gone in our alternator, it's going to be supplying too high of a voltage to the battery, which would explain that at one point, as I say, when I went to boost this vehicle, it was running for a while, and I checked it after that, and one of the posts was very hot. Common the situation that can happen with when an alternator gets defective and overcharges the battery. And we're going to change these out. Now what we got here is also, because my battery posts are on the opposite side, this is a positive over here on the left, our ground over on the right, I'm going to remove this, our plastic unit the battery sits in here, two 10mm bolts down in here. That'll be easy. I want that out of there simply because I want to make sure that I have enough slack on these cables to move them around without actually crossing them over and doing anything dangerous. So just loosen those off. And where's the other one? Over here. Lefty loosey. Counterclockwise to loosen anything. And once we get this battery case out of here, that'll give me access to see what's involved as far as the cabling below, and to move it around a bit if I have to. I'm not going to make you watch me do all this. I'll take this out of here, and then we'll have a look. Okay, so removed our two 10mm bolts from down in there. They're ridiculously long, but that's beside the point. On this vehicle, there's tabs here by my finger. If I try to lift this now, it won't come out. Just gotta move it that way and then pull up. And that'll give us access to our wiring so we can see how much slack we have here we have to move it around. Incidentally, never a bad idea when you're doing something like this, particularly if you're concerned about the wiring. Buy an extra cable. This one here in Canada, May of 2015, $14, 35 inches, good and long. If I did have to replace the thing, if it turned out to be damaged in there, keep my receipt, I'll take that back if I don't need it. And I can't recall if I mentioned it or not, our new terminal connectors, $3 each. You'll notice on this terminal connector that the way that it connects up is the wire from our cable goes through here, and then we're going to tighten these two bolts down for it to fit. And there's a nut on this side. There's another style of connector where the wire just goes in there and then a nut clamps down on it. I wanted this style here because there's a good chance if you're doing this job that you're going to have a situation like this. Here's our ground cable here, our terminal connector, and another wire hanging off of it. This was a 10mm nut. I already loosened it off before, and I've actually taken it off of this one here. So what we're going to want to do is connect that onto our terminal connector, and that's the reason I got this style here, because I can take this wire here now. This is a 7/16 inch bolt, I believe it was. I'll stick it through this cable here like that, and then that will connect up nicely when we go to do this, like so. So what we're looking for basically is a good tight connection for these other cables also. Good time to put your gloves on too, by the way. So I verified that I have lots of room to reverse these cables safely. This one here, negative side, will go over far over this side. Our positive has no problem going over the other side. So I'm going to continue on here. Also, you want to check the cable that connects to. Also, that'll go over that way, no problem. So, as discussed, we can see this cable on the end, the connector there, has seen much better days. And there's a possible issue that could have been causing some grief with this right there. We're not going to try to salvage any of this wire that's within that connector. Well, that's going. We're just going to cut that back. And cut this back, and then I'll have strip this plastic back and have a look at how our cable actually looks there. So, we'll search for that. Now, again, very careful doing this type of thing. Extremely careful depending on how you want to do this. I'm going to cut this around like so. Careful your fingers. And then strip this back and get ourselves some good clean wire there. Now, once you've got your wire cut back, good clean cable exposed there like that. Make sure that there's no debris on it. And then, as I said too, make sure you wear safety gloves. You should have a heavier pair of safety gloves. These are just cleaner type gloves, because these strands can pierce your skin pretty easy. I should have a thicker pair of gloves on. So then, back off your nuts like that. Your bolts rather. Nuts are over here. Move this all back like that. Should give you lots of room to get that cable in there. And incidentally, you notice I haven't cut the end off of our negative cable connector yet, because we absolutely do not want to get these reversed. We would not want to lose track of our positive and negative. If you think there's any possibility that you may do that, do not do this job. Because if you reverse those cables and connect that battery up, you're going to do some severe damage to your car, and probably some severe damage to yourself with the blast that might occur Okay, this is going to be stubborn. I'm going to have to, basically I'm going to put this cable in there. I don't think I can do it now without knocking this camera over. I'll say, okay, so I've moved our cable into our post connector here. I actually took this bolt out, moved it aside, laid the cable in there, and then moved this portion here back over. It's a little stubborn there. So now once you get that in there, I'm going to take our, what is it, 7/16 socket, tighten up one side a bit, tighten up the other. We're tightening up here, so we're going clockwise now, righty tighty, back and forth. This is only soft metal, so we're not going to overdo it here. Because we're compressing the cable, you'll notice that it'll start to get tight and then loosen off a little bit maybe. There you go. I don't want to overdo that. And try to pull it out. It's not coming. That's good. You might be able to see the end of the cable through there. So that's good. That's our positive done. So once you've completely finished one cable, as in this case the positive cable is completely done, no possibility of getting the wires mixed up that should have been in the positive or going to the negative. Once you've got that one completely done, then we'll move on to the other cable. So I'm at the negative. I know this set of wires here will be connecting to the negative post. I cut back our plastic there, and basically same type of deal. I'll cut that back, strip that back, and we'll put our other post connector on. And once you cut it back, like so, take your pliers or whatever. I just pulled on it to get it off there a bit. Here's our good clean wire. This is what I was talking about with some of these strands. That's why I should have had a heavier pair of gloves on. Watch those. And this is what I was talking about before, about as far as the getting the cable into the connector. Notice I've got the top moved aside here. I got my finger here there holding that nut in on the other side of the post. So I'm going to lay that in. Lay my cable into the post connector. Like that. Nope, I want to redo that. Some of those. I don't know if I go this way here. This is the way I wanted to do it. Lay that in there. Go from that angle. Like that. Hold that in place. Hopefully my fingers aren't too much in the way there. Tighten that up. And nope. Ratchet the other way. So just tighten that on there good. And test your cable. See if it's good and tight. No, that's not bad, but I might actually back that out and move that cable up a little bit. Tighten up a little more. Okay, that didn't have quite as good of a connection on the connector here as far as the cable went, so I backed it up, moved the cable a little bit farther in there, and now it's good and tight there now, so we're ready for that. So before I bolted my battery tray back in, I just placed my new battery in, side mounted posts. Found out that this piece of plastic here was covering where I wanted to connect the battery, so I did a little minor adjustment into that. You can see we got a slot there now, and now we're going to take our 10mm bolts and bolt that back down in. I won't make you watch me do that. Alright, once you get it battery all mounted in there, tighten up your connectors. Now, from this angle, I'm pulling up on the wrench to tighten it. And clockwise, a little different when you get a look at it. Upwards. So anyways, that's that. I've already connected up the other one. Let's see if I can find the keys for this car and we'll give it a try. Okay, I found the keys. Let's see what happens. Okay, the old beast started, and that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.